Não se deixe enganar pela calma e a tranquilidade das águas do Lago Erie. O Sem Fronteiras dessa semana veio até Cleveland, principal cidade do estado americano de Ohio, para acompanhar a turbulenta convenção que consagrou Donald Trump candidato do Partido Republicano à Casa Branca. E mais do que isso, o programa tenta entender como o partido de Lincoln, de Theodore Roosevelt, de Nixon, de Reagan, dos Bush, foi tomado de assalto por um multimilionário falastrão dado a tiradas grosseiras e preconceituosas e que se orgulha de ser politicamente incorreto e, mesmo assim, está promovendo uma revolução no cenário político americano. Afinal de contas, o que sobrou da alma do Partido Republicano? E o que é o partido de Donald Trump hoje? A convenção é uma mistura de show business e política, um espetáculo para confirmar o candidato do partido e reafirmar a plataforma e seus valores. Mas é também uma oportunidade das cidades escolhidas de ganharem projeção e dinheiro. Cleveland era uma das várias cidades candidatas a sediar o encontro republicano em 2016. Chegou a se candidatar também para fazer a convenção democrata.
It's narrowed from 10 cities to 8 to 4 to 2 with lots of presentations, site visits, probably in some ways very similar to an Olympic bid. And we were awarded the convention about 2 years ago, and then you have 2 years to plan. It's such a beautiful way to showcase Cleveland to all the people from the world who are here. And I think for me, I think certainly when a nominee is actually chosen, I think for any city who hosts, and it doesn't matter what party you're in, the fact that you're part of history is always very exciting.
Todos os esforços foram feitos e muito dinheiro investido para garantir a estrutura para receber milhares de delegados, visitantes e jornalistas do mundo todo. Uma multidão calculada em mais de 50 mil pessoas. Além de preparar também a recepção para os manifestantes contrários aos republicanos e principalmente a Trump. O esquema de segurança envolveu autoridades locais, estaduais e federais, mobilizando mais de 7 mil homens, muitos vindos de outros estados. Isso fora a Guarda Nacional, Serviço Secreto e outras tropas reservistas deixadas de prontidão. Só para isso foram gastos 50 milhões de dólares. Mergulhando nesse universo de show e debate político, o observador curioso confirma o talento dos americanos em organizar eventos grandiosos. Quem presta um pouquinho mais de atenção nos discursos, porém, logo percebe. Aqui, o conteúdo conta menos do que a forma. Não faltou polêmica. No caso, em torno do plágio do discurso da mulher de Trump, Melania, com trechos idênticos aos da fala de Michelle Obama, lá em 2008.
The values that you work hard for what you want in life.
The same values. Like, you work hard for what you want in life.
Nada disso, no entanto, desanimou a torcida. E torcida é mesmo a melhor definição da mistura de delegados e outros participantes que encheram a Quicken Loans Arena. O ginásio é a arena dos campeões do basquete americano Cleveland Cavaliers. Agora, é difícil encontrar semelhança entre o vitorioso LeBron James, com sua história de superação e redenção, e a soberba de Trump e seus discursos, onde sobra muita coisa, mas falta, sem dúvida alguma, fair play.
Well, they wouldn't believe from the beginning, the Republican establishment, they wouldn't believe that he would win the primaries, that he would win, in the beginning they said, well, you know, he's not really serious about running, and it's just a show for another TV show, and he's never going to run all the way through. Look, I think part of it was arrogance, snobbery, white-collar arrogance, you know, and then because of this mantle of blue-collar Republican that he assumed. And there was a terrific amount of snobbery involved all the way through. Excuse me, even when he kept winning and winning and winning, primary after primary, they said, well, he won't win the next one. And he did, all the way down to the fact this really is a classic political revolution, what's happened here. He calls it a movement, and I think in many ways it really is. But it's a political revolution that, I mean, it's truly an amazing moment. In a sense, he's redefined the Republican Party in his own image. It's no longer republicanism. And it's no longer conservatism, it's Trumpism. He has created Trumpism.
O primeiro presidente dos Estados Unidos do Partido Republicano foi Abraham Lincoln, eleito em 1860. Inegavelmente o maior de todos os presidentes americanos. O partido tinha sido formado poucos anos antes para impedir o avanço da escravidão no país. Lincoln enfrentou a rebelião dos estados escravagistas do Sul, levou a União à vitória na Guerra Civil e emancipou os escravos. Ele virou um símbolo mundial da luta pela igualdade racial, contra o preconceito. A gente fica imaginando o que será que Lincoln diria se soubesse que o partido dele viria a ser comandado por Donald Trump. Para entender como o partido de Lincoln virou o partido de Trump, a gente conversou com o jornalista Jay Nordlinger, da revista National Review. Ele acaba de se desligar do Partido Republicano porque não aceita Donald Trump. Como era o partido na época de Lincoln?
The party was anti-slavery. The party favored economic growth. There was a slogan. I won't quote it exactly. I think it changed over time. Free soil, free labor, free men. That was the idea. And of course, there was always an argument in this country about the American Revolution, what it meant. So the different parties had competing visions of what the American Revolution meant and how to fulfill it.
Theodore Roosevelt.
Depois de Lincoln, outro presidente republicano importante na história dos Estados Unidos foi Theodore Roosevelt, já no início do século XX.
And there was a fight, big fight between Teddy Roosevelt and William Howard Taft. That was another Republican president. A fight for the mind and heart of the Republicans, if you will. And then a lot of people rallied around Coolidge, who was a quite successful president, if not a flashy one. But then the deluge came with Hoover and the Great Depression, the crash in 1929. And he was an excellent man, a smart and noble and patriotic man who coped with the Depression unsuccessfully.
Foi a chance para que os democratas, liderados por Franklin Roosevelt, chegassem ao poder por mais de 20 anos. Nos anos 50, os republicanos voltaram, com o general Ike Eisenhower. O vice dele, Richard Nixon, perdeu para John Kennedy, mas acabou eleito em 1968. Nixon foi um precursor de Trump. Explorou o ódio racial, o temor dos brancos diante do movimento dos negros pelos direitos civis e ampliou a base do partido, conquistando o Sul, onde antes os democratas predominavam.
And in 1964, Barry Goldwater, a conservative Republican, was nominated for president. And he lost very, very badly. I think he won 6 out of 50 states, if I remember. And yet he ran a campaign of principle. It just wasn't his time. 16 years later, a great supporter of Goldwater's, a man who had spoken for him famously on television on the eve of the election, was nominated. That was Reagan. And he stood for limited government, low taxation, light regulation, patriotism, conservative values, a strong military, and anti-communism. And the glue that held the American right together was anti-communism. It united the free marketeers and the traditionalists, or the religious conservatives. And once the Soviet Union collapsed, the glue dissolved.
Depois dos governos de Reagan e seu vice George Bush,
So help me God.
os republicanos amargaram 8 anos fora do poder com Bill Clinton na Casa Branca.
I, George Walker Bush, do solemnly swear.
Em seguida vieram os desastrosos 8 anos de George W. Bush, que abriram caminho para os 8 de Barack Obama. Quando Obama derrotou o candidato Mitt Romney em 2012, os republicanos fizeram meia-culpa, o que eles chamaram de uma autópsia, para entender o que estava errado com o partido. Concluíram que a mudança demográfica nos Estados Unidos estava erodindo a base republicana. Os brancos, no meio deste século, passarão a ser minoria. O partido teria que ampliar a base para incluir minorias raciais, especialmente os latinos, e atrair mais mulheres e jovens. Mas, em 2016, Aconteceu o oposto.
I will build a great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Mark my words.
O empresário Donald Trump, mais conhecido pelo reality show The Apprentice, tomou o partido de assalto, com a estratégia inversa. A aposta de Trump é mobilizar e entusiasmar a base do partido, a classe trabalhadora branca. Pelos cálculos de Trump, se ele conseguir 70% do eleitorado branco, conseguirá derrotar a coalizão das minorias raciais, dos jovens e das mulheres, liderada por Hillary Clinton.
And I hope you'll join me on this journey.
But who are these people who vote for Trump?
They're the disaffected, people who are disappointed, people who have felt left behind and disadvantaged by the privileged. These are people with a grievance, some of it justified. And they feel that President Obama, has gotten away with murder. And they believe that Hillary Clinton will be simply the third term of Barack Obama, and they're desperate to stop it. And they have viewed the Republican Party as too timid in the face of Obama, too polite, too weak, too accommodating, and they're tired of it. So this big man, demagogue, Trump, came along and promised to smash their enemies. And his style was just as belligerent as the left's, even more. And a lot of people responded to that and said, yeah, that's what we need. That's what we need in this time and place. Enough politeness, enough nobility, enough civility like Mitt Romney, such a good, decent, well-mannered man, such a good, sober, straight-laced, moral, religious man. No more, a lot of people said. We need a rough, tough SOB, excuse me, who's going to get the job done.
A convenção republicana, em algumas vezes, chegou a parecer uma reunião de família. Além da esposa, a filharada de Trump compareceu em peso para discursar, sempre elogiando o pai. Até a mãe do vice, Mike Pence, participou. Os discursos dos convidados apelaram quase sempre para a emoção, a importância de reafirmar o poder americano, a necessidade de responder às ameaças externas e também internas com decisão e força. E sempre que possível, recorrendo a ataques duros aos democratas e a Hillary Clinton. O governador de Nova Jersey, Chris Christie, ex-adversário, adotou o estilo melhor amigo de infância de Trump e ensaiou fazer um tribunal para julgar com os delegados da convenção o que viriam a ser os crimes cometidos pela candidata democrata.
I got another question for you. As to Hillary Clinton lying to the American people about her selfish, awful judgment in making our secrets vulnerable, what's your verdict? Guilty or not guilty?
Plataforma republicana, valores, propostas foram mencionadas raramente. Soluções, tampouco. E sem direito a nenhum ex-presidente republicano falando. Aliás, as ausências nessa convenção parecem ter marcado tanto ou mais do que as presenças. Nem mesmo o governador de Ohio, John Kasich, apareceu. Num dos discursos talvez um pouco menos raivosos, o do presidente da Câmara, Paul Ryan, ele falou da importância de unificar o partido, mas, acima de tudo, de adotar uma posição ofensiva e insistir nela. De Trump mesmo, só falou 2 vezes, e nenhuma delas para dizer que era o nome certo para garantir o fortalecimento dos republicanos. Não faltou ali quem visse o lançamento de uma pré-candidatura pensando na eleição de 2020.
What do you say that we unify this party at this crucial moment when unity is everything? Let's take our fight to our opponents with better ideas. Let's get on the offensive and let's stay there. Let's compete in every part of America and turn out at the polls like every last vote matters because it will.
Ao discursar na convenção, o conservador Ted Cruz que também participou da disputa para ser nomeado candidato à presidência e foi derrotado por Trump, não chegou a fazer campanha para si, mas também não disse que apoiava Trump. Saiu vaiado. What do you think is left of the Republican Party as we knew it till the advent of Mr. Trump?
Well, the conservative, pure conservative aspect of the party is still very much there, and it's still very alive, led by Ted Cruz. And and I certainly don't rule them out in terms of future conventions and future runs. All of it depending on what happens with the election. If Trump wins the election, then the Cruz candidacy and the future of the conservative Republicans is delayed. If he wins for 2 terms, it's really delayed. But if Trump loses, then certainly the Cruz candidacy resurrects, and so does the pure conservative notion. I was really surprised when the conservatives came out against Trump in such a strong way. He would be their natural leader. And instead of doing this, the splitting off the party on the behalf of Ted Cruz, instead of doing that, imagine if they all would have united, and gone into the race that way.
It's more a question of the Republican Party adapting itself to Trump thoughts and minds and everything, than Trump having to adapt to the Republican values and everything like that.
That's exactly right. No one would believe that they would do that. But the fact that McConnell and Ted Cruz and they're all speaking here at this convention, and last night's speeches as well, shows that's exactly what they're doing. Now, they tried to do everything to stop him. They couldn't.
Trump, this outsider and populist, came along and captured the imagination of a portion of the country. And it was enough, according to the party system, the party rules, to get him the nomination. He is a very talented performer. He's a kind of genius at public relations and self-promotion. He can whip up a crowd. He can stoke grievances. He's funny. He's an insult artist. He's a style of politician, the kind of populist we usually don't have in America. They usually don't ride to the top. It's more common in South America. Take, for example, Hugo Chavez. I am no Chavista, but unfortunately, this was a very talented man, a talented demagogue and charlatan who had a great sense of theater. And he knew how to zero in on the grievances, the complaints that people had, the resentments. He was a genius at this. I would say a dark genius. Trump has a lot of that too. I don't underestimate Trump. And you and I are now talking in mid-July. He's the heavy underdog. And I wouldn't bet the ranch on him, as we say. I wouldn't bet $1 on him. I might bet some of your money.
E a mesma convenção que carimba a candidatura republicana à Casa Branca é a que aprova também a plataforma do partido para os próximos 4 anos. E esse ano essa plataforma é tudo menos leve. Por exemplo, na questão de regulação do sistema financeiro, abre espaço para a revisão de todas as medidas adotadas depois da grande crise de 2008. Na questão do comércio exterior, deixa entrever ali a possibilidade de revisão dos acordos comerciais com a China. E na questão da família, trata casamento como a união de um homem e uma mulher, ou seja, uma derrota e tanto para os grupos de afirmação das minorias sexuais. Agora, o que a plataforma não traz? É o caminho para implementar, para tirar do papel todos esses planos para lá de ambiciosos. What should the world expect of a Trump administration?
When Trump says something to the world, no matter who it is, and I don't have to name any political or country, he has to back it up. When he tells them to stop, they stop. If they don't stop, they pay a price, whether it's militarily or economically.
I think there's going to be some big changes.
And are you confident?
I'm crossing my fingers. Listen, there's been a movement like we haven't seen before in our lives, and especially in this party. We're seeing people go out and register to vote who've never voted before in their lives. I think this is going to be a big win for Trump. I think he's going to be the next president of the United States.
What will happen to the Republican Party now?
Many people will make predictions, but they don't know. And I don't know. Sometimes parties just disappear. We had the Whig Party in the United States, very important party. That was Lincoln's party. It only lasted 20 years. Same with the Federalists. Now, the Republicans have been going for a long time. The first contest really between Democrat and Republican was in 1856, one presidential election before Lincoln. So the Republican Party had a good long run. What will happen after Trump? I think it will be quite hard to hold this coalition together because the Reagan conservatives, the classical liberals, the free marketeers are very different from the populists, the nationalists, the protectionists, the isolationists. They really don't belong in the same party. So someone has to be homeless for now.
Bom, e se o Partido Republicano desaparecer, quem sabe não será a chance de entrarem na disputa da presidência partidos com propostas, no mínimo, curiosas.
It's still a long road. This time the Libertarian candidate, Gary Johnson's very strong, and he might be influential, maybe even get in the debates, but I don't know if it's going to happen in the next 12 years. It may take longer than that.